This week, Tesla opened the massive Lost Hills, California site on July 3rd. CPO Loop carved out their own PlugShare filter icon, joining the ranks of the larger CPOs. And like last week, Shell Recharge opened another charging hub, this time in Torrance near Los Angeles. And it seems the $2.50 session fee and the 69 cents per kilowatt hour wasn't quite high enough of a price for them. So they upped the price even a little bit more. Let's get into it. I'm here at a local charging station that has a solar voltaic canopy in order to reflect the effort our headline story has to some extent. This station has 12 stalls, but the Tesla Supercharger station in Lost Hills, California has 84, which is basically, 7 times the size of this one. And that's only the first half of that station. So 84 stalls is a very large station, but that's not really the story here. The first half, and then it'll go up to 168 eventually. The story is that that station has solar voltaic over the stalls and also a solar voltaic farm out in the adjoining land right next to it, which is powering the refueling of the electric vehicles. So it's off-grid. And Isaiah here at the Out of Spec Bits channel did a video where his enthusiasm, passion, and authenticity for the excitement for this station really comes through. Isaiah's automotive journey is going to be much different from mine. I, saw the transition from unleaded gas to gas, just to kind of leaded gas to unleaded gas, just to kind of date myself a little bit. And basically that was it until we got to electric vehicles at the very tail end of my automotive journey. I don't want to say I'm getting ready to die, but I'm definitely up there in age. And Isaiah is going to have a much different automotive journey than me. So I definitely recommend checking out his video where he talks about this station. And with some regularity, Isaiah is going to be able to see these stations come online in the future, and much different automotive experience that will be coming for people of his age as time goes on, with stations like this setting a brand new standard. This is absolutely spectacular. Not only is it beautiful, as I mentioned, right off Interstate 5, but it's only the first 50% of the stalls that are eventually going to go in. There are 168 total, with powering from the sunlight generated electrons, fueling into 10 megapacks in order to provide electricity while the sun is down, and pull through canopies over the stalls, gas cans. They did put in some temporary restrooms while they finished building the facilities. And this is really a paradigm shift that the rest of the electric vehicle charging market is only able to aspire to. I think only Tesla could have pulled a stunt like this off, and it is absolutely I call it reality altering. This is where you forge your own reality. They weren't able to get power delivered in a reasonable amount of time from the utility, so they said, we'll just create our own electricity. Thank you very much. And they did it. Not only did they do it, they did it in 8 months. From the time the first spade of dirt was turned to the time that these 84 stalls were opened, less than a year. That is truly remarkable. A huge solar voltaic farm going into Tesla Megapacks, very complicated electrical design build needing to be completed, and all that completed in 8 months. So truly stunning. I don't think anyone besides Tesla could have completed a station like this. Absolutely remarkable. Sticking with Tesla, last week I mentioned how they opened a 32 stall station off the New Jersey Turnpike as a way of alleviating some of the decrease in stall count from getting booted off the service stations. Again, this week, another 32 stalls opened off the New Jersey Turnpike. I mean, it's off the turnpike, but there's not a turnpike exit close to here. Interstate 95 and the turnpike run really close to each other. And it is near an Interstate 95 exit, but it's not near a turnpike exit. But it is right adjacent to the turnpike in an area called Cherry Hill Township, kind of close to Philadelphia. And for some reason, they're calling the station Lawnside, and I'm not sure why that is. It's also very close to what is known as the Woodcrest train station that can get you into Philadelphia and points beyond. And that Woodcrest train station provides some amenities, not a restroom as far as I could tell, but that Woodcrest train station is very close by. And then there's also interchanges with Interstate 95 where there's convenience stores and fast food restaurants. And the reason I mention that is because people in PlugShare have been mentioning how there's no amenities at the station at all, and it's in an industrial park. So it's just a place to refuel your car. Is open to non-Teslas. There's a picture in PlugShare of a Chevy Blazer charging there. And then you have to find somewhere else in order to dump your trash, go to the bathroom, and get some food and refreshments because there is nothing in the immediate vicinity. But still, 32 stalls off the New Jersey Turnpike in back-to-back weeks is of significance in my opinion. Those are pretty large stations. Additionally, in the Tesla universe, the long-awaited Tesla diner at 7001 Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood is now seen to have their screens playing rocket launches and other space images. There's also Tesla's charging at the stations and some kind of floaty tethered. It looks like either like a killer whale or something, but it's just a big floaty that's tethered in the parking lot. YouTuber Vanessa Wyatt, and I recommend going and seeing her video, did a good walk around of the site. Some of the people on X have drone shots of the site, but the fence is still up around it. In Vanessa's video that was just taken a few hours ago, the fence is actually down, and she shows people inside the diner setting up for what looks to be some kind of media event with camera equipment and lighting and things like that. So it's got to be soon. You don't tether a floaty in the parking lot if you're not getting ready to have some kind of event. So it's going to be pretty soon that the Tesla diner, at least the charging station, will be open, and then likely the diner itself will open a short time after. So something to hang our hats on and look forward to. Also this past week, the passing of the big beautiful bill had a chance to be processed by EV enthusiasts, and although the loss of the $7,500 tax credit is happening, as well as the carbon credit provisions, the NEVI program was not mentioned. So let's go to Steve, who operates the Plug and Play YouTube channel, who's been following the NEVI program very closely, to see if we can't get a perspective on where the NEVI program was when Trump took office and what we could expect now that the big beautiful bill has actually passed. Steve, wonderful having you on. Long time no see. It's been at least a day, right?
Yeah, I think Boston GigaHub was the last time we convened for Out of Spec Bits. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, on Out of Spec Bits, yes, but Coast to Coast was not too long ago, and heading into the summer hiatus here. But here we're going to be talking about NEVI. Before we do so, on the Boston GigaHub, we didn't have a chance to do a one-on-one because it was Corbin from the Ionic Guy channel also on board. Can you give us a little bit of background of you as content creator and your EV journey before we get started?
Yeah, so I date back to the Chevy Bolt EV in its first model year, 2017. So kind of on the lower end of the charging spectrum at that point, but there wasn't much infrastructure to do much more than 55 kilowatts at the time, so no big deal. But kind of went through a couple of leases on the Bolt. That takes us through about 6 years of getting into the EV world, figuring out what the infrastructure is about, and along the way, kind of figuring out some issues with cold weather charging, how to plan road trips, all this good stuff that EV content creators cover. So along the way, kind of spun off a YouTube channel called Plug and Play EV. And in 2022, moved up to this vehicle behind me here, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 in its first model year as well. So kind of a sucker for that first model year with all the problems those come with. But night and day charging, obviously, with from 55 kilowatts max to about 240 kilowatts and the 800 volt architecture. So haven't really looked back from that, with the speed of road trips really picking up.
Yeah, and if I can't touch on the 800 volt topic, I remember when the EGMP cars were first coming out, there was a lot of backlash saying that although they might be faster charging than Tesla, the 800 volt is actually going to cook the battery. And I know you've taken trips across the entire country, so you got to have a good amount of miles on your car now.
Yeah, we just passed 90,000 actually. So
whoa, okay.
Had a good time.
And does that FUD stand true that your battery is now at 50% of capacity or anything?
Not at all. I'd be getting it replaced under the federal warranty if it was. I will admit to being worried at the time. We definitely had some interesting forum conversations, but no, actually, I think I just had my best charging session at the Iona Scranton rechargery. We got 8 to 80% in under 18 minutes, which is better than the original claim of 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. So I don't think it's having any problems. Range seems to be very, very similar. And I know there are people, we spoke about the Ionic guy, Corbin. He's got folks in his community that are well past 6 figures, maybe into 200,000 doing rideshare and seem to see much the same range as day one. So we don't seem to be seeing those cooked batteries, at least not in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, so hopefully 800 volt will start to become more commonplace, even with Tesla, and start bumping things up and getting us in and out a little bit quicker. Because I definitely admire the speed at which you flow through charging stations. Is nothing that I've been able to see as of yet. But and I've noticed that content creators such as yourself, who were early adopters of Bolts and Teslas and whatnot, were pretty dialed into the Electrify America and the VW Dieselgate storyline, just because the funding for stations at that juncture, subsidies were definitely a part of EV charging growth. And when NEVI came along, it was like VW Dieselgate times 11. It was like bonanza. And I was excited as well. And I was thankful that you were able to consolidate what NEVI had to offer and the amount of progress that was going on. And obviously we hit kind of a hard stop once Trump came along. But before we get there, in the big beautiful bill passing and its effect on NEVI, can you bring us up to date on where NEVI was progressing and prior to the Trump administration taking office, like numbers and
I mean, super quick timeline. Obviously, it took a couple of years for the states to get their plans in order. This was part of a budget legislation back in 2021 with the Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act. But once they got their plans in place and the first station was energized in Ohio in late 2023, it moved up kind of slowly again. It took states a while to get on the map, but by the time the Trump administration came into office on January 20th, there were 52 stations in 13 states energized. So you had some early leaders: Ohio, New York, Texas started to come in the last few months of 2024. So it was starting to gather momentum, I guess, is where we were. It was all that early promise of putting the plans in place, getting the partners aligned, awards and solicitations out of the door was starting to gather momentum. And from the headlines, you would think it hit a hard stop. There was just nothing happened after that January 20th because of all the flurry of executive orders and general kind of antipathy towards electric vehicles and anything associated with them. Didn't really happen. I mean, we've continued, and to this day, I know you had the question of kind of where we are at this point. We got pretty much almost double. We're approaching 100 stations energized now, 17 states. So you've had 4 new states come in the mix since the Trump administration came in. So there have obviously been legal battles, as we'll get onto, and pauses, but you can't really, it's not an immediate stop, right? There's construction projects, spades going into the ground, lots of things being built, and nothing they could really do at that point could stop those projects coming on. So we've still seen a steady stream of activations, despite all of the kind of headlines that would have you believe EV infrastructure just died on January 20th,
Yeah, and one thing I think people often forget is that the infrastructure bill, although NEVI is often associated with Joe Biden, he didn't have any part to play in actually the authoring of the legislation. He just signed it. It was a bipartisan bill supported by both Republicans and Democrats. As I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is that not the case?
No, that's true. I mean, obviously there were, plenty of pushback on the side of the aisle that is now kind of dismantling or trying to dismantle a lot of this. So that's always going to be the case once you start to politicize a mode of transportation. But the goal was really, and a lot of the investment was to push into states that were either purple or Republican states, and that has been spread out pretty broadly. And obviously, stopping it kind of then splits it again down party lines. So you're seeing, as we'll get on to, the kind of blue and more progressive states push forward now and try and claw that money back, and the other ones just kind of falling in line with the party line and stopping. So, but at the time it was designed to spread EV infrastructure and fast charging stations across the country at a a base level with the requirements kind of set, so that it was a consistent rollout, even if it wasn't all happening at the same time.
Yeah, and one of the states that had that inertia you were mentioning past the administration change was Kentucky, which is a very red state, and they were still putting NEVI stations and activating NEVI stations even after the Trump administration was in place. But you mentioned the litigation, and there was a grouping of 14 states, as I recall, that got together and decided to join forces in order to combat what was coming out of the executive branch's pushback against disbursement of NEVI funds. Is that a fair
More or
characterization?
less, it was for the purpose of the NEVI program, at least of this legislation, states include Puerto Rico and District of Columbia, so it's 52 as a
Ah,
pool. There were 17 states that were part of the lawsuit. 14 of them were successful. 3 still have to work out their legal grounding, but that does mean 14 states successfully sued, as far as we're seeing at the moment, to get that money back and the full 5 years of NEVI funding start flowing to their programs again.
which uh, was the judgment was in their favor, as I recall. And I was thinking maybe the reason the Trump administration didn't appeal that decision was because it was going to be embedded in the big, beautiful bill provisions in order to just nullify NEVI as a whole. But to the best of my understanding of the big, beautiful bill reading, there's no mention of NEVI whatsoever. So, as far as I could tell, the NEVI program is legally intact. Is that
Yeah, the way they designed these funds, it's already passed legislation, right? So that funding has been obligated, and obligated was kind of the key word here because how it proceeded was Trump administration came in 20th of January, the 6th of February, the Federal Highways Administration agency had put a pause on all NEVI funding. They said that previous program guidance was rescinded, and so every state essentially had to pause their program and wait for revised guidance, which we're still awaiting to this day, even though there was a spring deadline, self-imposed deadline, no less. But the main point was that it was where the obligations were occurring. So they said that previously anything that had a signed contract, any project, this is why we talk about stations still opening even though essentially the program is paused. Anything that had a signed contract they considered the point of obligation, so those could continue because money is already flowing, things have been signed legally. And the challenge from those 17 states was that the program is set up in such a way that the obligation happens when the funding is allocated, which was way back when the bill was passed. So this is something called a no year allocation, where it's just at the moment it's passed. That's the obligation, and all that money is now allocated to the states, and they should be able to get it. And if they don't, then there is irreparable harm done because they've already allocated, they've made plans, they've invested this time and money into it. So they can, their economic forecasts will be kind of lower if they don't get the funding that they were promised. And that's what the court in Washington in June, a district court, agreed, said that they had to immediately unfreeze that funding and continue with the money flowing. And that's where we expected to see some kind of challenge from the Federal Highways Authority, and just haven't seen anything yet. So there's, should point out, there's still ways that this can go. There's still appeals that can happen. There is, if you watch any of the news headlines around kind of PBS and public broadcasting, there's a bill going through right now called rescission, something around rescission, where they can claw back those funds that have previously been allocated. So there's ways that this could change, but at the moment, those 70, or at least the 14 states that proved harm, have been able to say we want to go ahead, and the courts and the Government Accountability Office has kind of fallen in line with them and said, yes, these funds should be available to you for the project.
so? Once again, lawyers win.
So far, I mean, there's the only ones who are making money out of this last 6-month period, but hopefully the states will eventually, if not make money, get that money back that was allocated to them all those years ago.
Hopefully so. And Steve, I understand I'm a consumer of not only your YouTube channel content, but you also have a weekly email newsletter. Is that not the case?
Yeah, that's right. So this kind of overlaps with that. It's via Beehive newsletter and every Sunday. So that goes out. It's evi.plugnplayev.com. And folks can sign up for there. That's just a weekly flow of kind of all the NEVI stations that have activated, as well as everything else, kind of in line with your own good efforts of the Alternative Fuels Data Center, and kind of perusing that for the interesting places every week, plus whatever else is happening in the world of EV infrastructure.
It's very informative. I encourage everyone to go out and sign up. And once a week, you'll have in your inbox a concise and comprehensive view of what was happening in infrastructure in the past week. Steve, much appreciated for coming on to the Out of Spec Bits channel and helping to provide a little bit more clarity. Although we're not completely in the clear, at least there's some positive signs that we've won a judgment, and it was unaffected from the big beautiful bill. So we'll see how the NEVI saga unfolds in the coming months.
Absolutely.
Much appreciated.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve, for that perspective, and hopefully NEVI will continue in some form or fashion through the coming months and years. It was always nice to see those stations coming online. Next, Electrify America had a really good week, opening 4 stations, including one through their partnership with IKEA. If people are not aware, Electrify America has been doing good work with IKEA and also Costco, opening stations on their properties. So we got one of those, and also 3 natively owned ones and operated. So they continue with their good progress, rolling on a growth curve as they transition from a litigated base organization to a CPO that's finding a path to profitable operations. Next, Shell Recharge opened their second charging hub in as many weeks. Last week it was in San Francisco, near the middle of town, just south of Golden Gate Park. This week, southwest of Los Angeles in Torrance, a 16-stall station. But the pricing still includes the $2.50 session fee that everyone was very unhappy about, as well as the price was seen to be 74 cents per kilowatt hour. That's a nickel higher than what was seen in San Francisco, causing at least one PlugShare user to express their displeasure with a frowny face image displayed over the pricing. And some people chimed in and said, yes, but California gasoline is very expensive as well. But 74 cents per kilowatt hour, the $2.50 session fee is pretty darn high. And so Shell Recharge opened their second charging hub in the state of California in as many weeks. And I guess that's as far as we could take the excitement there, because the price is definitely a deflating aspect, at least in my opinion. Locals might have a different perspective. Lastly, sometimes an anecdote helps to put into perspective the amazing amount of change that we're witnessing. A viewer, YouTuber BGolf8374, sent me this about past and present trips along I-70 between Colorado and Indiana. And I just want to read this. Just got back from another I-70 trip from Colorado to Indiana. Hit up the new Vidalia, Illinois, and Lyman, Colorado sites. The amazing thing is that we did this same trip in March, and since then, 7 new charging stations have opened, and we used them all on this trip. And he lists the charging stations that he used. Plus, EA upgraded chargers in Fishers, Indiana to 350. They were all 150 before, which is important when we take our EV6. Mind you, this trip was already very easy to do with the charging infrastructure that was in place. It's just that much easier. And just how crazy, and it's just crazy how fast these are going in. Thanks for watching.